Good morning. Today we will discuss about the check constraint in detail. So what is check constraint? It is used to put the condition for each row. For example, let me start my Oracle first. So I'm just starting the Oracle. Here you can simply log in using SQL plus. Here you can write AU 2020 is my username. So I just started my Oracle prompt. Now I want to understand that how we can put the check constraint for each row and why it is required. It is a one kind of, you can say, the validation, right? For example, let me start with the very simple concept. For example, I want to start with the default first. So I already explained you in my last lecture that what is a default, right? So here you can put the comment using dash dash. Default is used to insert the value in case if user skip the insert into that column. So your default value will be inserted. Or you can say that in which situation we can put the default. For example, let me create a simple table. Create table test1. Whenever you create the table, here you can put the column name and the data type. So I'm just putting the data type, that is ID integer. The good practice suggests that always put the column name on new line. Now I want to put here the column that is, for example, that is a transaction date. So generally what happened to the transaction date? The data type will be date. In the transaction date, what happened? Generally, whenever you are inserting the record, the transaction date is maybe most of the time it is a default date, and default date is the system date. So here you can put default sys date. Sys date means it will take the current date. So today's date will be inserted into this column if I skip that particular column at the time of insert. Now I want to take one more column, for example, city. So in case of city, you can define the data type, for example, varchar 30. Here also you can put the default if it is required. So default city is Rajkot if anybody is not inserting the city. Now I want to take one more column, that is salary. Here you can put the number of, for example, 5 digit. So maximum you can insert the 99,999 value. It means 5 digit salary you can insert maximum, right? So it is the maximum value. But what default you want to insert? So I want to insert the default salaries, for example, that is a 2000. You can say that it is $2,000, right? Now I want to create this particular table. Whenever you want to create the table, you can simply copy this and you can paste over here and you can press the slash. The table will be created. Once the table is created, you can just check the default value is inserting into the table or not. So you can simply insert the record, insert into test1. Now I want to skip all these three columns, that is transaction date, city and salary. So you can mention the column in which you want to insert the record. So I'm just adding the column that is ID values, and here you can give the ID that is 101, for example. Then one record will be inserted. Now you can check the data. Select star from test1. Here you can see that the date is today's date, that is 9th December 2020. City is default, that is Rajkot. Salary is 2000 and the ID is inserted over here. There are two different ways to insert the default into the table. One, you can insert the column and other column you can simply skip. So default will be inserted. Another way is you can do like this also. For example, if you want to insert one more record 102, then you can simply write here default, default, default. So default is the keyword that you can use, but remember, no need to pass any single quote over here. If you write like this, then also the default value will be inserted, and here you can check that the 9th December Rajkot and 2000 is inserted. So there are two ways. Either you can insert with the columns and you can skip the columns. Even you can mix both if it is required. For example, if you think that, sir, I want to provide the transaction date, then you can put here the date, for example 1 January, and I want to put here 1998, right? So it is my date, and I want to put the default city, so it should be Rajkot, and I want to put the data over here, that is 10,000. This is also valid. You can do like this also. So if you skip the column at the time of insert, then default will be inserted. Even you can use the default keyword to insert the default value. Rest value will be inserted. But what happened over here? Sometimes people can insert the zero over here. And we all knows that zero salary is not the proper input. So this is a error at the time of insert, you can say. Might be a chance the data entry operator made the mistakes, and I don't want allow to make the mistakes by data entry operator. It means that the data entry operator must be accurate at the time of insert. If he is not following the rules, then I don't want allowed to insert the record. I want to give him an error. At that particular time, you can define a constraint, for example. So this is a simple create table with the, you can say, default. Now I want to create a one more table, but with the constraint. So which constraint I want to put, that I will put here as a comment. I want to put the constraint that add the check constraint that salary must be greater than 1000. It means at least 1000 salary should be there. So greater than or equal, or you can say at least 1000 salary must be there. So I want to put, I want to create a simple two columns because I'm right now explaining only check constraint. So test2 is the table ID integer, for example, salary. Now I am giving the data type number of 5. Number 5 means it is a maximum salary. I want to give the minimum salary, that is must be greater than or equal to 1000. So here you can put the check constraint. Check into bracket. So what is the syntax of check? Very simple. Check into bracket. The name of the column in which you want to put the condition. So column is a salary. So you can simply write here check salary greater than or equal to 1000. So what happened in this case? The salary will be greater than or equal to 1000. Even you can use the default over here also. For example, default salary is 2000. So if you skip the record, then the default will be 2000. If you insert the record, then it must be greater than or equal to 1000. I want to put only this two columns, right? So here you can simply copy and you can check the table is created. Now I want to insert one more. I want to insert the record into this is 2. If I am inserting the record in ID only, that is 101, for example, then the default salary will be inserted. But if I am trying to retrieve the data, then it will be different. See here, you can check the default salary 2000 is there. But now I want to insert the record and I want to insert the ID and salary both. Now I want to insert the salary, and that is, for example, 999. It will not allow me to insert the 999. If I insert here 1000, then it's okay, right? So you can put the constraint that the check that salary must be greater than or equal to 1000. If you skip at the time of insert, then it will take the default, that is 2000. Even you can ignore the default if it is not required. Even you can combine the default and check both. But one big problem is what? Suppose if you have a multiple column having the check constraint in the one table, then you will not be able to identify the error is available on which column. For example, see, suppose if I am entering 999, now it says that the check constraint is violated and here some number is there. How can I identify that the which check constraint is violated? For example, if I have another table, let me create the table, but this table have the two different constraint. Which two different constraint? This one that I want to continue over here, but I want to add one more constraint that the city must be equal to RAJKOT. It means I want to add one more column over here, and that is a city. Here you can put varchar2 size, for example 30. Now I want to check that the city equal to RAJKOT. I already explained you guys that the character and date must be enclosed within single quotation mark. So now I am trying to insert, and now I'm trying to create the table, but this table will be a little bit different. How? Let's check. Now I want to insert the record. Now I'm trying to insert the record into test 3. Suppose if I am inserting the record 101, now I am inserting the city, for example, Surat. Now I'm inserting the salary, for example, 999. Now you knows that I made the mistake in the both the column. What I did the mistake? I need to use the values, right? Now see, the error is coming, that is check constraint violated. How can I recognize that the error is available in which column? Right? It means it says that this is C underscore C00178554. It means what? How can I identify that the error is available on which column? Syntactically, it is perfect. Suppose if you change here and if you pass here a value that is, for example, 1500, then the error code will be different. It is 53 now. Suppose if you made here RAJKOT, then the record will be inserted. But one problem is found over here, and the problem is what? I'm not able to recognize the error is available, that is check constraint is available, which check constraint is violated. So students, the good practice suggests that whenever you write the constraint, good practice suggests that whenever you write the constraint, always give the constraint name. For example, I want to create a one more table, but this table will be a little bit different than the earlier one. How? We can give the constraint name. So you can use the keyword constraint and the name of the constraint. So name of the constraint is check city RJT. It means this is the name of the constraint. My name of the constraint is check city, that is a Raj code. Now I am writing here again before the check. You can define the name of the constraint, that is constraint. Now name of the constraint is check salary more than 1000. So meaningful name is required over here. All the naming rules will be applied over here. Now I'm just trying to create the table number 4. So you can simply create the table number 4. Now what is the biggest advantage in this? The biggest advantage is, suppose if now I'm trying to insert the record on the table number 4, then it will give me an check constraint violation error that the check the salary more than 1000. Now I will insert the salary, that is 1999. Now it will give me error that check the city RAJKOT. Now if I enter the city, that is RAJKOT, then the one row will be created. But remember student, if you are writing here RAJKOT in a like this, for example, if you are writing a sentence case RAJKOT, then also your error will be violated because you have checked the CT RAJKOT. So the data is in capital letters and data is always case sensitive. So how we can modify this particular table to allow the user to make the insert into the table for, that is, even if the RAJKOT is written in a toggle case, I want to allow, then you can convert your CT that is the input of the user into uppercase. So your upper city is equal to RAJKOT, and in this particular case, it will allow me. So now I'm trying to create the table again, but the table number 5, yes. One more thing that you need to understand, that the constraint once you create, so constraint name must be unique within the database. So once you create the constraint name, that is chk underscore cd Rajkot, so you cannot write the same constraint again for the another table, right? That is constraint name. So my suggestion to you guys is prefix over here, that is the name of the table. For example, test 5. If you write here test 5, then you will be able to recognize that this is the constraint of test 5 table. This is the constraint of test 5 table. Now you can simply copy this and you can simply paste over here. Let me paste into SQL. Now you will be able to identify that the table is created. Now this table is created with the name of the constraint, with the table name and proper constraint, that even if student insert the record, for example, if I am inserting 999, it will give me error that check salary more than 1000. If I pass 1999, then it will give me error that the city must be Rajkot. Now, if I pass the city is equal to Rajkot in capital, allow me. Even if I write in a sentence case, it will allow me. No, it is not allowing me. Why? The error is check city Rajkot. Yes, it is the error not in test 4. I need to use test 5 because I did the changes into test 5. So if you write here test 5, the record will be inserted. If you write it here Rajkot in capital, it will be inserted. But if you write here 9999, check constraint is violated. And now, suppose if you write here proper salary, but the city is different, for example, Surat, then also violated. You can get the data by calling select star from test 5. Now, both Rajkot is same, right? So, here you can understand that the data is case sensitive. So, whenever you write the constraint, you can write like this. Now students, suppose if you people think that, sir, I want to understand the syntax of create table including the constraint. So what is the syntax? Very simple. Let me write the syntax over here. Create table. Now table name. Then you can write the bracket. Now for each column, for example, column 1, then you can write the data type. You can define the size if it is there. In some data type, the size is not required. So I'm writing here that is in some data type it is required. Now I'm writing here optional portion, that is constraint name, right? Constraint name must be unique, and one more optional portion, and that is a constraint, but that you can define over here, right? So you can say that this portion is optional. If you are not defining, the Oracle server gives the constraint name itself. Now you can define the constraint over here. This is also a optional, right? So which are the constraint? Primary key, foreign key, check, unique, and not null are the constraint. If you are not defining a constraint, then also it's okay. Here you can define the default expression also if it is required, right? You can give the default date, you can give the default integer value, you can give the default character value. And here you can pass the comma. This is the one column, second column, third column, fourth column, fifth column. And now you people will be able to understand that you can define like this. Now I want to move ahead into the category of the constraint. For example, now I want to create a one more table, but I want to give the constraint that at the check constraint that I want to do what? I want that I want to create the table customer, and the customer number must start with character C. Customer number must start with character C and at least, or you can say and exact 4-digit number after that I need, right? So how we can do this? Again, you can create the table test, for example, 6. Now, I don't want to create the table 6. I want to create the table customer. Now here in customer, you can define the customer ID or you can say customer number. Now customer number must contains the character C. It means it is character data type. So it will not be integer, right? So I can define varchar, for example, 5. Now I want to check, but I want to also that the customer number, I want also that the customer number must be unique and customer number must not be null. So you can say that the unique plus not null, it means it is a primary key. So you can define the primary key over here. So customer number will be primary key. Now I don't want to give only primary key. I want to check that the customer number must start with C. So you can check that. So what is the syntax of check? Let me write here. Check into bracket column name. Then you can use the operator and value. So what I need to write here, check customer number. Now I want to check that must start with character C. So here you can use the like operator. Like will do what? Here you can mention C percentage. It means that it must start with C and then rest percentage is a wildcard character. So any character after C it will allow. But I don't want to pass here only percentage. I want to pass the exact 4 character. So here you can write percentage. If you write percentage, then it will allow the 2-digit value also. For example, if I insert C1, then also it will allow. If I write C2, then also it will allow. So if you want the exact 4, then you can use the underscore 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is your check constraint. Now I want to create simple table up to this first. Then I want to add rest different constraint. So I'm just copying this. You can simply paste over here. You can copy this, paste. See, the table is created. Now you can try to insert the record into customer, insert into customer values. Now I'm trying to insert the values, for example, P1001. It will not allow me. See, the constraint is violated. I need to give the name over here, right? One thing. The second thing is, suppose if I am writing C1001, it will allow me to insert the record, right? If you are writing here C1001 again, then your unique constraint will be violated. Why? Because we have given the primary key to this. Suppose if you insert the null into this, then your not null constraint will be violated. Why? Because we have given the primary key to this. So 3 constraint is available over here. One is primary key. It means a combination of unique plus not null, and the check with the C. Even one of the good thing is what? Suppose if you are passing here a C, but if you are passing only 3 digit over here, then also your check constraint will be violated. So you must need to provide the 4-digit, 4 character after the C. You can do like this. Now I don't want to create only these things. I want to add something more over here. So I am just dropping the table customer. Why? Because I want to add something more into this. And that is what? The name of customer. And I want that the name of customer that must start with name of customer must start with A to P. It means I want the ABCD, that is first letter must be A to P, that is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. So I want to allow user to name of the customer between A to P. Then how we can do this? Simple again. Now you can put the comma and you can put here customer name. Now name of the customer is 30 characters. I want that the customer name must not be null. So I'm writing here not null. If you want to put one more constraint, then please don't pass a comma. Simply you can pass a space, because if you pass a comma, then it will consider the new column. So simply pass a space and then you can write here check. Now what you want to check? I want to check that the name of the customer must start with A to P. So I'm just getting a SUBSTR function. In SUBSTR, you can get the first letter. You can retrieve the first letter. So I'm passing here CNAME, comma 1, comma 1. So what happened? It will extract the first character. Now I'm giving the condition over here that the SUBSTR of the customer name between A and P. So what happened in this case? Simple. The new table will be created and now I will not be able to insert the record which not start from the letter between A and P. So how we can do this? Let me insert the record. This is the table is created. Now I want to insert the record. Say insert into customer. Now I want to insert the record customer values. I'm inserting. I already told you that the character, that is varchar, is enclosed within single quotation mark. See, now I'm writing here 1001. It will allow me. Now name. Suppose I am entering the name of the person is Ram. It will not allow me to insert the name Ram. See, check constraint violated. But the problem is which check constraint violated, right? So better thing is provide the name over here. One. Second, suppose instead of Ram, if you pass here Lakshman, the record will be inserted. Suppose if you pass here Arjun, the record will not be inserted just because I need to change the ID. C1002, the record is inserted, right? So my suggestion to you guys is provide the name of the constraint. So let me provide the name of the constraint. That is constraint. Name of the constraint is customer table. So I'm writing here cust check customer number start with C. So this is the name of the constraint. Students, please see carefully what I did. I created a table with the simple constraints. Still, I had not introduced the date data type yet, right? So now I want to give another constraint over here in the customer name. So I'm writing here constraint in the customer table check customer name between A and P, right? So a meaningful name you can give over here. You can simply drop the table customer purge. Once it is dropped, you can recreate the table. Now you can insert the record again. Now I am trying to insert the record, that is Ram, will not allow me. Now I am trying to insert the record, for example, that is a Lakshman, definitely allow me. Now I want to check that the which constraint is violated. So suppose instead of Lakshman, if I write here Arjun, then it will give me the message that is unique constraint violated. Suppose if I am writing here 100, then it gives me a message that the customer check customer number start with C, right? So it is already start with C. So here you can give some meaningful name to your constraint. So I'm writing here 100 Arjun, the record will be inserted. But if I write here that is for example Tatsat, right? Then it will give me an error that the name must start between A and P. Now I don't want to give only this. This is what, see, this is the simple check constraint you can say. But I want to give one more thing over here, and that is every customer having their contact and email ID. So I want to give a email ID. So I'm writing here email ID. We all know that the email ID may be 30 character long, right? Now each and every email ID must be unique. So you can pass here unique. Now I want to give that the email ID must contains at least at the rate, right? So if you want to check that the email ID must contains at least at the rate. So email must be unique. One more thing, email must have at the rate symbol, right? So how we can check this? Simple, you can write here check email ID like single quote percentage at the rate percentage, and you can close your check constraint. But what happened in this case, it will take the email ID even if it has only at the rate. So my suggestion is use the proper constraint over here. So how we can write here? Simple. First give the name of the constraint. So I'm giving the name of the constraint is constraint. The name of the constraint is customer check email ID, right? And then you can write a check email ID like, I don't need a comma over here, right? Because it is as it is the last column. So you can simply copy this. The table will be created. Now what I want to do? I want to insert the record into customer and I want to check it is working properly or not. So I'm just testing into customer. What I want to test? Only customer number, and definitely I need to pass the customer name because it is also a not null. So customer name, and I'm checking only email, right? So three values I'm passing over here. Customer number, for example, C0001. Customer name, for example, it is Paresh. It will allow me. Now I want to pass here only at the rate. See, the record is created, but if I am not passing at the rate and if I am passing here PCS, if the name is if the record is changed, the constraint will be violated. That is, check the customer email ID. It means I have to pass the at the rate. But this is not the proper way, because what happened in this case, even if user is passing the at the rate, the record is inserted over here, right? So this is not the proper way. Suppose if you write here select star from customer, then the at the rate will be there. So this is not the proper way. Which is the proper way? Whenever you write email ID, I want to check that the email ID must have. So let me define here, for example, email ID must have three letters. That is, for example, Parag at the rate. Then domain, that is, for example, Gmail, right? So must be at least two, because here in is also there. So .com. So the requirement is what? At least three character is required over here. Then you can write percentage. It means three or more are allowed. So if I'm writing here Parag, then it is allowed, right? Then you can write at the rate over here. Then at least two characters of domain is required. Then you can pass dot over here. But the domain can be a more than two letters. It can be a, instead of in, it can be a Gmail, right? So here you can write percentage. So percentage stands for one or more character, and underscore stands for at least one character. Then dot, then after .com is there, so at least three character is required, and then you can write percentage. So three or more is allowed. Now you can write like this over here in the email ID constraint. For example, at least three letters is required, so you can write three underscore, then percentage, at the rate for domain, then again underscore, which domain at least 2 is required, then you can write percentage, so 2 or more is allowed, dot is compulsory, then you can write 1 2 3 at least character, and then you can pass percentage. And now you can try to insert the record into the newly created table. So first drop the table customer, then recreate the table. Once it creates, now you can try to insert the record with the at the rate. For example, if I'm trying to insert the record with the at the rate, it will give me error. It will not allow me to insert the at the rate record. Even if I'm trying here, that is for example, PCS at the rate, even I'm trying here like this, p at the rate p.com will not allow me. Why? Because at least 3 letters is required, because I put here 3 underscore 1 2 and 3, so I need to write here at least 3, so I'm writing here PAR, then also it will give me an error. Why? Because after at the rate at least 2 is required, so here you can pass PAR at the rate in.com, the record will be inserted. Even if you write Parag at the rate Gmail, it will allow you. It will allow you, but I need to change this particular data. Why it allows me? Because I strictly said that at least 3 required, 3 or more it's okay. So percentage stands for 0 or more. So you just need to understand what a percentage is. Percentage means 0 or more, and underscore means at least one character is required, and that is the reason why I posted over here 1 2 3 and 4. It means at least 4 is required, exact 4 is required. Here 1 2 3 underscore and then percentage, so 1 or more is required in this case. So this is what the email ID is. Now I want to add the city, but I want to check that the city must be the metro city, that is the big city of the Gujarat, and that will be either Ahmedabad, Vadodara, Surat, Rajkot, right? So we want the input from either this particular city, right? So here you can write a city, again you can specify the data type, right? Now unique is not required because city may be a same for the multiple customer, so we cannot put the unique. Sometimes what happens, some customer hide their city, so null is also allowed in this particular column. Now I want to check that a city in, so here you can check that the city will be available in which column, in which city you want to allow. So I want to allow the city is either Rajkot, Surat. So here in you can pass the multiple entries, Vadodara or Ahmedabad. But I already told you, might be a chance people may insert the value Rajkot in small letters. Then also we want to allow. So here you can write upper of city in Rajkot, Surat, Vadodara and Ahmedabad. Now one more thing you need to take care is provide the meaningful name to the constraint. So I am writing here constraint check. So this is the customer table, check city, and here you can check the city is, that will be in Surat, Vadodara or Ahmedabad. So the city will be available, that is between this, right? So you can simply save this. Now you can drop the table again, customer purge. Now I want to recreate the table again. Now you people will be able to understand that what I did. Now I want to check. The city must be between this. So it must be Rajkot, Surat, Vadodara or Ahmedabad. Other than this, the city will not be allowed. Right. So here you can try to insert the record. But remember, if you are not making any column mandatory, so user can skip the insert. And if user can skip the insert, then the null will be inserted into that particular column if the default is not set. Now I want to insert the value. Instead of email ID, I want to insert the city. So I'm trying to insert the city, for example, C1001. Customer name is, for example, Arjun. Now the city. Suppose Arjun is trying to insert the city, that is, for example, the city is Junagadh. He will not be able to insert this particular data. The customer check city is violated. So what Arjun need to do here? He can insert the Surat. Even he can insert the Surat in a toggle case. It is allowed. Right? Why? Because I put the constraint that the upper of city in this. So I converted the input of the Arjun into upper, and then I match with this data. So it is matched and it is allowed. So here you can insert the record of the same person with the different city. You can insert the record of Ahmedabad also, but you are not allowed to insert the record other than this. For example, if you write here Allahabad, then you are not allowed to do this. Why? Because it is not available over here. Suppose if you want to put a numeric constraint, then also you can do. You can put the constraint into date also. So many constraints are there. Still we reached at the half portion of the check constraint. Still I need to show you some many constraints related to check. So that we will discuss in the next lecture.